folks, welcome to the Griffith Observatory. In front of you is what's called a Fuko pendulum, and it's greeted our guests. It's the first thing they've seen for the last 75 years. It's original to the building. Now it's called a Fuko's pendulum. It's named after a French scientist named John Fuko. I don't know why I'm salivating now. Hold on one second. It's embarrassing. John Fuko was a very famous scientist back in Paris in 1851. He's famous for naming the gyroscope and all kinds of other things, but this is what he's most famous for, is the Fuko pendulum. And he was a scientist as well as a professor, and he had pondered for a long time how he could demonstrate to lay people like you and me who don't have engineering calculus in our head, how can he show us or demonstrate to us that the Earth is a rotating planet? How can he show that? How can he demonstrate it? So he had pondered it, and the legend goes that one day when he was in church, he looked up and he saw a chandelier doing this. And he had one of those epiphanies, one of those magic moments that happen when you finally figure something out you've been thinking about for a long time. So he runs over to the Pantheon in Paris. The Pantheon in any city is the oldest Catholic church. And he set up a pendulum like this. He put a stick on the bottom of it and some sand on the ground. And in just a few minutes, he had figured out how to describe and to prove to people that the Earth rotates. Let me explain to you how he followed up and talked about that. Guys, I'm trying to talk. Guys. Thank you. Fuko's pendulum, or anybody's pendulum, follows Newton's first law of motion. Now this ball is going back and forth in the same plane that we put it in 4 years ago when we reopened the observatory. If you know Newton's first law of motion, when you start an object in motion, it stays in the same plane unless it's acted on by an external force. You remember that from high school? Or no? No. This ball, you have to just take it on my faith. I'm telling you the truth. We don't lie here. This ball is obeying Newton's first law of motion. It's been going back and forth for 4 years in the same plane with very minor perturbations, back and forth for 4 years. Now, the puzzle becomes if the ball is not going laterally, it's going back and forth, why do these pegs keep falling down? Right? There's nothing making the ball move. The only forces acting on our pendulum are gravity, which slows it down, and air friction, which slows it down. Right? There's nothing making it go back and forth. It's going back this way. So the pegs keep falling down. Every 7 minutes, one of these pegs falls. What's going on? It has to be that the pegs are moving into the path of the ball. It can't be that the ball is knocking down the pegs because it's not moving laterally. I'm going to give up in a second because I can't talk much louder than this. So anyway, at our latitude in Los Angeles, we're 34 degrees north. The Earth underneath our feet is rotating approximately 860 miles an hour counterclockwise. Okay, even at that speed, it takes the Earth 7 minutes to rotate. This pit is building the whole planet one length of a peg. Okay, so at 860 miles an hour, the Earth underneath our feet is rotating counterclockwise. At that speed, it still takes 7 minutes to rotate this whole pit, the whole building, one peg's length. Right, so it takes that long for a peg to move into the path of our pendulum. And it can only be that if this ball is following Newton's first law of motion, which I assure you it is following that. Okay, so it's that simple. If the ball is going back and forth forever in this plane, and these pegs keep falling down, it has to be that the pegs are moving. They don't move by magic. The Earth is rotating the pegs into the path of the pendulum, and they fall down every 7 minutes. A secondary proof that the Earth rotates is this arrow on the bottom. At noontime, the x-axis of this pendulum was lined up with the arrow. Now it's almost, it's 9:10 right now. The Earth has rotated since noontime almost 75 or 80 degrees, right? This is the x-axis. This arrow here has moved counterclockwise. It's approaching 90 degrees in 10 hours. And so it's Secondary proof, it can only be, nobody's magically moving the arrow on the bottom. We don't have magnets or anything.
You don't have someone sitting up there?
No one's sitting up there, no gremlins, no Mickey Mouse. Now this pendulum has the benefit of being able to go back and forth forever. Only at Star Trek do we have perpetual motion. Nowhere else, nowhere in the universe do we have perpetual motion. We keep this ball moving with an electromagnet up in the ceiling. This ball weighs about 110 kilograms, which is 240 pounds in English measurement, and it's suspended from the ceiling by a 40-foot cable that's planted up in the ceiling. At the apex of each swing, the cable breaks a laser beam motion sensor, and there's a slight magnetic tug at the apex of each swing, just enough to keep it moving, but not enough to smash it into the wall. So Fuko, when he did this experiment back in 1851, didn't have an electromagnet, and his pendulum stopped rotating, stopped moving across. About 35 minutes to 40 minutes, it would slow down and stop. If we shut the electricity off up here, this also would slow down and stop, because air friction and gravity are acting on our pendulum also.